Hello everyone! In this and future videos on our YouTube channel, you will discover the absolutely true story about the amazing contacts of Irina Podzorova from Voronezh with Extraterrestrials, and her unique abilities of clairvoyance, telepathy, psychic abilities, and channeling. We, a group of volunteers from different countries, are translating the spiritual and scientific knowledge received from Irina Podzorova into English. We understand that all of this may be very difficult to believe, but we do not aim to mislead anyone. All the information presented in our videos is Irina Podzorova's personal life experience, about which she is sharing. Any images that we place in our videos are not a way to deceive you. We use approximate images to help you visually imagine what Irina is talking about. We replace the actual speech of Irina and her interlocutors in Russian with an English translation for those who do not know Russian. With love and gratitude, the volunteers of the International Development Team of the Cassiopeia Project.
Number 7. The Extraterrestrial Civilization's contactee, the answer to the main question.
I met Kirkhiton many times after the contacts, and we visited planets and talked about everything. And finally, he told me about the history of the Earth, the way we were created, and who created us. It was these three races who formed religions on the Earth, created sacred books of different religions. In Russia, it was the Bible, which was actually the records made by ancient contactees with extraterrestrials. One of such contactees was Moses. Moses was a contactee with planet Tumesout. Its inhabitants are from 5 to 8 meters high. Why did they choose him? They had a plan, even bigger and more global than Aslarians and Daharalis had.
She means that Jesus Christ is not an image of a physical human. It's the image of a created spirit, born by the Creator.
He is the firstborn son. We are his children born after him. He's our elder brother. He really is.
Why did they create many religions, not one?
They need to create a lot of them because completely different beings are incarnated here. They have various spiritual levels and various life concepts, and the single religion won't do for everyone. They all have different ideas of what life is. Therefore, different religions were created to form moral rules that subdue animal nature in people of different levels. Tastes differ, and those who match Islamic egregore can't match the Christian one, and vice versa. That's why it was necessary to do so. The single religion is impossible for all, because we all are different now on this level of development, especially when the majority of people simply can't feel the spiritual world. There are people who, as I do, feel the existence of spirits, the astral world. I go there every day. When I talk to Kirkhiton, we start discussing the Bible and the creators. He said that the whole Old Testament is the description of Jewish history. It describes how they were chosen as people through which the firstborn being would be incarnated. Why did he decide to incarnate here? Christ had incarnated on other planets previously, but not on all of them, just on those where they had turned too much off the spiritual path to the material one. To create such a religion that would help the incarnated spirits come back to life with God. But he wasn't treated on those planets the way he was treated here. He lived there for a while, he taught the people, he also had conflicts there, but it never came to what it came on this planet. He taught the people, created the religion suitable for their world outlook, used their terminology. For instance, monotheists have their terminology. Other people need another terminology because they believe differently. When the Tumesout made contact with Moses, who was Moses? He was Jewish, and the Jews were slaves to the Egyptians. The Pharaoh ordered to kill all the boys so they wouldn't reproduce, and Moses was abandoned at the Pharaoh's daughter's door. It was really so. She brought him up as her son, but they wouldn't hold his Jewish origin back from him. And once he saw an Egyptian hurting a Jewish slave, he killed him and escaped to another country. All this is described accordingly in the book of Exodus in the Old Testament. He wrote it, there are his records there, but later some Jewish Levites added to it. But basically, it is his records as a contactee that we can find there. So he escaped to another country. It was about 4,000 years ago. It was a different civilization, a completely different world. There was no modern knowledge of astronomy, physics, no television, no computers, no rockets. All the extraterrestrials that came down to the Earth in flying saucers were considered gods. There were no other concepts because stars themselves were considered the eyes of gods. They didn't know that planets are suns. Those people had a mythological conciseness. So Moses escaped to another country, got married. His wife's name was Esiphora, if I'm not mistaken. He had a son there. Moses was about 70. They had an ecologically friendly civilization, and he was quite strong and tended sheep at this age. One day he saw a burning bush which couldn't burn out. But it wasn't a bush, it was a ray directed by the spaceship to form a ball to attract his attention. Those were the Tumesout. Moses was a Jew, and he spoke Hebrew. There was Hebrew already. So when he saw this, he came to check it and heard a voice. It was a special voice repeating relay, "Take off your shoes, because the land you're standing on is sacred." And why did they say so? They decided at once to introduce him to the idea that they had come from high above, that they were gods. They decided to introduce themselves as gods to create a certain religion so it would be easier for them to explain the concept of planets.
They picked a moment when he could really 100% believe them.
Take off your shoes. The land you're standing on is a holy land, it was said in Hebrew. They had already learned the language. And when he talked to them, he called them the Elohims, i.e. gods that came down from heaven. Elohim is actually the plural, which was translated as God. And Moses told the Tumesout, "There are my people, lead them out of Egypt." Why my? Because they had already decided to form such people whose vibration characteristics would allow to incarnate such a being as Jesus Christ. He couldn't incarnate through anyone. If he comes into a low vibration woman, he will destroy her. And the Tumesout were helped by their first partners, the Kirkhiton.
The Kirkhiton are also our creators. I will call the Tumesout the Atlantes, to put it simply, and the Kirkhiton are the ancestors of the Aryans. They are fair-haired and as tall as we are.
So he asked to lead his people out. And they started working with Moses. The Pharaoh didn't want to let them go. And what is described as 10 plagues of Egypt was actually the effect made by the Tumesout. The Pharaoh let them go and they went to the desert. The problem was that the Jews were really from Canaan. 400 years they had been slaves, and in the meantime their land had been occupied by other tribes. Who would let the whole people in? All the cities there were occupied by a large tribe. The Tumesout and Kirkhiton didn't fight there with their weapon. They gave the Jews the opportunity to conquer their land by themselves. And all that is hereinafter described in the book of Exodus by Joshua was the history of the wars.
Friends, we want to take care of you and remind you not to forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, copy the link to our YouTube channel to your phone so you can easily find us. We also have a Telegram chat group for you to connect with us and other like-minded people. You can find all the details on how to join in the description below this video.